I'm Tom, and I have been gone for a very long time, and I'm sorry about that for those of you that did notice or realise. I've got a lot going on, and I mean a lot going on, but that's a subject for a different day. Perhaps I bring the driver's seat back and talk about it in there. Anyway, we have seen a conclusion to the transfer window, the most expensive transfer window in history. And Liverpool have spent big. Liverpool have spent big time. I've actually not spent as big as what people are making out and as big as some of the other clubs, especially when you take into account net spend and when you lose, I mean, Diaz, Nunes, some of the contracts they would have lost. But they have spent massive, they have spent big. And what does this mean going forward and in future? The thing is, it wasn't just the biggest, most expensive, most kind of lucrative transfer window in history. It was that by some distance. I think that shows the inflation that we're seeing on the current market. Players going for far more than perhaps they should, or far more than they would have done in the past. And that's crazy. And again, I look at who Liverpool have bought and think, actually, look, they spent a lot of money, there's no doubt about it. But players like Isak, I think, value for money. Ekitike, value for money. Frimpong, Kirkes, value for money. Gay, who he didn't quite get, but would have got value for money. And the fact you're saying that about the players that literally have cost you tens of millions, in some cases hundreds of millions, is crazy. And it shows where we are with the current market and why bottom teams, lower down teams just can't compete. And perhaps it does need slightly changing, slightly looking at, saving, helping, all that good stuff. But anyway, it's been concluded and Liverpool have spent big. Now I'm just going to touch on the transfer deadline day deals that we made. So initially we signed Isak. Isak to Liverpool is huge. 125 million if you're Liverpool, 130 million if you're Newcastle, but 125 million pounds to sign Isak is huge money, but probably value for money. When you look at what he did in that Newcastle team, and now you're putting him around Mo Salah, Florian Wirtz, Dominic Szoboszlai, Hugo Ekitike, Cody Gakpo, McAllister, you're putting that around him and you're saying, "Now just go and score." He's incredible. He's going to be an unbelievable signing. There's no doubt in my mind. That makes Liverpool, as if we weren't already, a formidable force, a really scary proposition facing every other club in Europe, not just England. It's incredible business, an incredible signing, and it makes our club, it puts the pressure on, don't get me wrong, but it makes them a genuinely scary proposition. And with someone like Arne Slot coaching and being a tactician behind it all, I'm not even that worried. I think he's such a good manager and he's tactical, he's smart, he's forward thinking and planning, he's unbelievable. And his attitude, you've got someone like Ruben Amorim saying sometimes he wants to quit. Whereas then you got Slot saying the best game he's been involved in is that PSG game that he lost. Because it's exciting football. It's football where you learn. At this level, it's incredible. And it's a really exciting time for Liverpool. However, yes, the pressure is absolutely now on Liverpool. Not just to go and win the Premier League, but to make a real stance and impact and journey in the Champions League. The same can be said for every other competition. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say anything less than winning is a letdown, because it's not. You've got the Premier League, the most competitive league on the planet, and the Champions League with the best teams from all over Europe, probably the hardest competition on the planet. To say that if you don't win them, it's a failure is ludicrous. However, you have to make a very strong argument that you could have and should have won it. And that's where we are. The other signing we were looking at making is Mark Gay. Mark Gay to Liverpool would have been the icing on the cake. It would have been brilliant. It would have provided more cover and more depth that we needed in the centre-back positions when we're looking at the Carabao Cup, the Champions League, the FA Cup and the Premier League. However, it fell through. Now, we'll touch on the player side in a minute, but actually from a club's perspective, from my point of view, I think it might be good. Provided he doesn't go and get injured, he's going to get solid, guaranteed minutes, which is something we probably couldn't have guaranteed him. And you've got Konate, obviously Leone as well, but certainly Konate knocking on the door. Joe Gomez is there as well. It's a lot of rotation. I don't think Gay would have played week in, week out like he will do over at Crystal Palace. So it gives him half a season of solid minutes. And then in January, we'll go knocking again and probably get him for 20, 25 million. Save ourselves 10, 15 million pounds. So from that perspective, it's quite good. Also, it gives our players a chance to get their kind of foot in the door, a bit more time with the team to get embedded and settled without adding another player to get settled, another player to get embedded in the team. It gives the rest of the club time to settle down and get embedded and learn each other's football before we add additions to it again in January. So there's that. And it gives them more playing time as well because there's less players to rotate through that defensive line. And then when fixtures really start to take off after the Christmas break, that's when you see the end. That's when you're going to see Champions League pick up, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, and of course the back end of the Premier League. Now, am I saying we're not going to play fixtures before that? Obviously not. It will still be busy. But after that sort of Christmas, New Year's break, that's when you see, again, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Champions League, Premier League, all these fixtures really start to kick off and you get to the business end of the season where every game starts to count. If you're in the FA Cup, you're in the Carabao Cup, you're looking to win it. The Champions League, you're looking to win it. Semi-finals, quarter-finals, finals. Premier League, if it's not wrapped up by then, which it won't be by January, you're looking to every game, title races start. Title races start, you can't afford to lose a point. And then we can go, right, now we're in this position. Now we'll get some backup in the form of Mark Gay, who's on form, been playing week in, week out, and to a settled team and bring him in and settle him into it. So from that side of things, I also think it's really good. That said, Mark Gay must be absolutely gutted. You had your dream torn down from you. You had everything there, you're ready to go, everything signed, sealed, delivered. And the last minute, Crystal Palace go, don't think so. So, whilst it might take a bit of time for everything to click at Liverpool and the players to settle in and us to get Mark Gay on board as we want, I do think, with all that said, we have to make a serious push for all the silverware this season. If you let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that other stuff works, people. Peace.